Hello, I'm Crispin, and welcome to Poker Room Review, your guide for live poker rooms all across the world. In each episode, we review a live poker venue, discussing the important things you need to know when planning your next poker destination. For each venue, we review a range of characteristics, including location and access, game options, service and experience, and Rake and Rewards. We also discuss any rules, quirks, and issues relating to each location. Today we are in the far north of England at the absolutely breathtaking and uniquely friendly Newcastle upon Tyne. Honestly, just as a city, Newcastle is massively underrated with wonderful architecture, bridges, festivals, and a great blend of modernity and classic English atmosphere and tradition. And of course, the infamous Geordie accent. Among its many other delights, Newcastle has a casino that also has poker. We visited there, so let's get into it. Category 1, location and access. Now, my personal journey to get there was quite remarkable. I took a direct flight from Australia to London and then a connection to Newcastle. Newcastle has its own international airport though, with many direct flights all around Europe and the Middle East. But strangely, the only flight to the Americas is to Cancun in Mexico. But most people like myself will fly to London first and then take a connection. There's also trains from Edinburgh, Manchester, and other local cities that are fast and convenient. But do keep in mind that ticket prices for trains in the UK are weirdly massively inflated as compared with anywhere else in Europe, or indeed anywhere else in the world. I mean, someone's probably done a great video on that, but I couldn't get my head around it. Once you arrive in Newcastle, though, probably at the airport, there is a train that goes from the airport that is quite frequent and inexpensive. It's less than £5 or around $9 and it takes about 30 minutes to get into town from there. If you need to exchange money, though, please skip the airport. I changed money at the airport, which I don't normally do, but this time I did, and it was a mistake. I got absolutely fleeced, so don't do what I did. Now, once you get to the central station, the Grosvenor Casino is an easy walking distance from there. There is also an abundance of hotels and accommodation next to the main central station, and a lot of it is reasonably priced. When you arrive at the casino for the first time, bring your passport to the front desk so they can sign you up as a member, after which you can enter the casino just by giving your date of birth. Now, they won't necessarily give you a membership card unless you ask for it, but do ask for one because that'll give you access to sign into their app, which I'll talk about later, and that app is incredibly useful. There's also an abundance of free parking. The parking lot out the front is ticketed, but once you get your ticket, bring it to the front desk at the casino and they will validate it for you. I'll talk more about it later, but personally, I wasn't prepared for just how elegant, fun, and family-friendly Newcastle as a city was going to be. Newcastle is among the most famous for its nightlife, and rightly so, but it is a lot more than that. It's a great place for family getaways, especially if you want an authentic English experience. Combine this with convenient and affordable airport transfer, abundant accommodation, easily accessible casino. This is a fantastic location. There really isn't any drawback here. If I had to find a criticism, it's just that the direct flights to Newcastle from outside Europe is limited, but really transfers from London are abundant and pretty cheap. So for location and access, 4.5 stars. Category 2, game options. One thing to note is that Newcastle's Grosvenor Casino is just one of a major chain of franchises that run all over the United Kingdom. Grosvenor integrates online and live poker through its website and app. So while the options at Newcastle are modest, and it is modest, the options across the UK via Grosvenor Casinos is varied and dynamic. Now, with respect to Newcastle itself, I cannot judge it fairly since I was there during a special tournament that squeezed out the other cash games. Normally, though, cash games operate in Newcastle every evening from 7 p.m. In addition, standard tournaments operate each day as well. The poker at Newcastle appears to just be Texas Hold'em, and the operating hours for standard games are indeed pretty restrictive. That said, the fact that there is an app that shows what is available within Newcastle and Grosvenor casinos across the UK, as well as the ability to play online as a UK resident, it's truly excellent. It demonstrates a degree of seriousness and maturity in their poker administration, and Grosvenor hosting event series such as the 2550 series, Behemoth and UK Open series shows a great ability to host major tournament events as well. One thing to note though is that even with their larger tournaments, they tend to skew towards the turbo format. For example, when I was there, the tournament, even though it had multiple flights and operated over several days, the blind levels were still only 30 minutes, and that might frustrate some players. But overall, a regional casino with this nationwide integration is a real benefit, and much of this review therefore can serve as a proxy for Grosvenor casinos generally within the United Kingdom. While the restricted operating hours limited game options, but regular tournaments would usually give this venue 2.5 stars, the integration of online platforms, nationwide poker management, and useful apps bumps this up to at least a 3. Newcastle may not be a major poker venue on its own, but within the Grosvenor chain, it is one cog in a much larger machine. So for game options, 3 stars. 3, service and experience. Now, before I go and talk about Grosvenor Newcastle specifically, I want to discuss Geordies in the north of England generally. You see, I was prompted to travel there because of other YouTubers who made compelling videos about the income disparities between London and the rest of the country. I had no idea. I'll leave a link to some of them in the description. Indeed, if you exclude London from the rest of the UK, then England has a lower per capita income than Mississippi, the poorest state in the United States. Traveling north beyond the M25, I think, is really important when you go to the UK, and few things are more fun than hanging out with the real people in the working class heartland of England. First, the Newcastle accent, known as the Geordie. It kind of goes like, I've been here all my life, it's hard to make a few quid, but everyone's super friendly like, you know what I mean? It is incredibly iconic, generally thought to stem from the Jacobite uprising in the 1700s, and is inalienably associated with England's northerners. The Geordies themselves are incredibly friendly. My first experience of Newcastle was walking with my suitcase dragged behind me. A guy stopped at an intersection to let me cross. However, the truck he was driving in obfuscated the lane next to him, so the car coming up could not see me. He turned on his hazard lights and alerted the car next to him, so not just keeping an eye for my safety, but also letting other traffic know as well. There's a sort of mindfulness around this country atmosphere, even though it was a city. I really appreciated it. The quality of the people is just great. Everyone incredibly friendly, down to earth, and thoroughly engaging and approachable. With average incomes in Newcastle literally half of that of London, the locals really do deserve more investment and prospects. While the city itself is absolutely gorgeous and a place I already miss and want to get back to. As for the nightlife, it's famous for the clubs on Friday and Saturday night. The reputation is that Newcastle can get a bit feral at times, but this is not fair. I know it's easy to find the videos on YouTube that paints it in a certain light, but that was not my experience at all. And it's almost a slander. The truth is that the young people out clubbing are remarkably well behaved given the alcohol and the setting. I felt perfectly okay walking around and mingling in the early hours, and that's definitely not the case for many other places I've been to. It really is just a fun, festive atmosphere with people out going having a good time without really causing any trouble or hassling other people. Of course, this friendliness and positivity extends to the staff at Grosvenor Casino, and everyone is courteous while dealers are fast and effective. There's a staff bar with food just outside the poker room, and wait staff regularly attend players who provide complimentary drinks. As mentioned, there's free parking and an app showing seat availability, and there's free Wi-Fi within the venue as well. Dealers are good at controlling action, while the room itself is decent with a loft overlooking the casino floor. On the negative side, the poker tables are definitely on the cheap end of the spectrum, and you can really feel it, and the seats are kind of also a bit crummy. When playing the tournaments though, the minimum chip denomination is 100, which is a bit limited in the early stages of a tournament for bet sizing. So for example, at the first blind level of 100 with a 100 big blind ante, it's impossible to open to 2.5 big blinds, for example. This is often more of a pet peeve, and I didn't even really know I had that annoyance, rather than it being a major issue. Also, some of the equipment for registering or entering the casino could be down. There are some cogs in the machine that could be a bit fixed, few errors, but otherwise it was a pretty good run event. These are minor issues in an otherwise positive, comfortable, and professional environment. While definitely lacking the glitz and glamour of the major entertainment complexes, for a no-frills poker room, it's really quite good. So for service and experience, 3.5 stars. 4. Rake and Rewards. The first thing to say is that being a nationwide franchise, there is a national tournament leaderboard that offers some pretty sweet benefits. Last year, the points leaderboard had a top prize of £75,000 or $100,000 US. So if you live in the UK, you can travel around, this is really worth it. Cash games across Grosvenor casinos are pretty good with Rake, except at the very smallest stake level, which is 50p £1, super low. That's raked at 10%, but every other stake level, including 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 2-5, is 5%, mostly capped at £10. Staff at Newcastle also said they were starting a live cash game chip race with a minimum reward of £10,000 on top of all the online offers that are given as well, which you can check out on the app, including a rakeback program. But even without any of these benefits, the rake itself is fine. But the thing that really comes through the Grosvenor experience is that it rewards loyalty. If you are a local to Newcastle or the UK more broadly and have a car to get around in, it is a really first-rate option just to travel around to the Grosvenor venues and getting those rewards. It's a little weaker though if, like me, you're just a tourist. You know, there's nothing like a bad beat jackpot or a high hand bonus you can just collect on the night. So that is a drawback. But again, the rake itself is fine. So taking it as a complete package though, ignoring the tourist element, it's fantastic. Rake and Rewards, 4 stars. Rules and quirks. Now, the main quirk about Grosvenor Newcastle is that it's not really a venue in and of itself. It feels more like a local bank branch or your post office with a centralized remote controller that operates the cosmology across the United Kingdom. It's nothing like a major entertainment complex in Australia or a huge casino on the Vegas Strip. Rather, to engage with the Grosvenor experience, you need your membership and to download and log into the app, which are located on the app stores and called Grosvenor Poker Live. And the app itself is really, really cool. In addition to finding all the cash games and tournaments across different venues, checking the leaderboards and the like, there's also an ICM calculator built in and an odds calculator. So this is really great. Grosvenor Newcastle is modest in size with a national games list, but you really should come to Newcastle anyway because it's a great city with fantastic people and a fantastic accent. And the nightlife is also wonderful. If you get on YouTube, as I say, there are plenty of people dunking on it, making fun of people in Newcastle, but it wasn't violent, chaotic, or destructive. People weren't smashing windows or picking fights, nothing like that. Everyone is really, really friendly, out having a good time, great to talk with and be around. And if you have family or kids, there's a lot to do during the days as well. The festivals, the parks, it's all amazing. So for that reason alone, but also the good service and low rake, for Grosvenor Newcastle, 4 stars. We review new poker rooms regularly, so if you found value in this content, please hit the like and subscribe buttons because that's the only way YouTube will know that this is the case. Also, please, if you have access to any Facebook groups or poker forums, consider sharing this video because getting more views is the only way we can make more content. In the meantime, have you been to Grosvenor Newcastle? If so, what did you think? Is there anything I've missed or recommendations you'd like to include? I'm sure everyone would appreciate it down below. If you want to check out more reviews, you can do so right now. Otherwise, thank you for watching and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.